This is Community Connection.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us on today's Community Connection, joined with a couple familiar faces. Of course, we've got Norma Ashby-Smith and Harry Mitchell today, and we're here to talk about an interesting individual, Jim Posewitz. That's how you say it, right?
That's correct. Right.
Very, very conservation-minded individual, and his fourth book now out, autobiography. That's what we're here to talk about. So tell me a little bit about who he is and what sets him apart and makes him a little bit different than your average
He's the
person.
#1 conservationist, preservationist in the state. And Harry Mitchell here worked with him when Harry was in the legislature, and he helped Harry pass a very important piece of legislation that affects us to this day. Would you just mention that briefly?
Very briefly, the SOS bill, Save Our Streams. The Highway Department was busy building the interstate highway system in the early 60s.
Sure.
And of course, the cheapest way to put a road in is right down a valley and just turn the stream into a canal. So they were fighting with the Fish and Game. Make a long story short, the Fish and Game and Parks, in conjunction with a whole bunch of citizen groups, went to the legislature, and we ended up passing a law. At first it was temporary because it was so controversial.
Sure.
When it was all over with, it only had one vote against it.
Wow.
And if people want to know why Montana is such a special state, the last best place, a lot of it goes to the activity that those people did and have done since then. And of course, Jim Posewitz was right in the middle of all of it. And he is Mr. Conservation in Montana.
And every time you drive through the Wolf Creek Canyon, you look down at the Prickly Pear stream, and it's intact. That was the stream that was particularly affected, wasn't it?
Well, that is, and they put 2 bridges in there that the Highway Department wasn't very pleased with because of the expense. But the end result was today the Highway Department has a fish and wildlife expert on their payroll.
Right.
Because they came around.
Right.
And he's also been very influential in the hunter safety program we were talking about. Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, you mentioned he had 4 books published, and we'll talk about the last one in a minute, but the first one was Beyond the Chase, and it's a manual for kids in their hunter safety programs, and a lot of people are still using it today, and over 700,000 copies have been printed. So that makes him right up there, high up as probably the best published author in the state of Montana.
Very cool. Yeah. And about his new book, tell us a little bit about that.
It's My Best Shot, and it's an autobiography of his life and some of the huge projects he worked on, and one that I'm particularly fond of learning about is his friendship with Cecil Garland from Lincoln, Montana, some of my old stomping grounds. And Cecil went to bat for the Lincoln Scapegoat Country, which is now a part of the Bob Marshall Wilderness. So he talks about that. But the big news we have for our viewers today is that Jim is going to be speaking this Thursday night, November 15th, 7 o'clock at the Lewis Clark Interpretive Center. He will have copies of this book there to autograph. We'll have cookies and coffee after his talk. And I know that people will love hearing his talk because he's a great storyteller.
I'm sure you would almost have to be a good storyteller to be able to put out that many books. And it'd be really cool to, you know, especially if you get a chance to read some of these books and then almost ask him kind of the backstory on a lot of those
There'll be questions and answers after his talk as well.
Very cool. Very cool. So again, that is going to be coming up on Wednesday night at the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center.
Well,
Thursday night.
Thursday night, excuse me. Thursday night, all that information on your screen there, so make sure you swing over there and check it out.